So we are blessed to be in the presence of Patrick Bell, a Southern Belle, and a dear friend of mine that I met last year on a trip to Texas. My plan was to sleep in my car, and Patrick wasn't having any of that.
Oh,
Even though
sir.
he had just met me, and he offered to let me sleep in his guest room. His wife, his wife and him quickly became my new parents for the month, and he is truly a massive inspiration for me. As in many ways, I think he most inspires me with, you know, going off of what Darren was talking about, what inspiration and whatnot, being a husband, number one, and also his authenticity in his content. It's really it's really amazing to see how he expresses himself authentically and doesn't care. He just shares from the heart, and he's guided by his faith. He combines faith with his training, and he's building a really powerful community. So I think he's just a very, very inspiring, amazing person. And he's going to talk today about not what I was expecting, but how to meet the woman you love, fall in love, and build a family. So let's get after it, Patrick. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you for sleeping on that couch a year ago and building this up. Oh, look at that. I
I
got a
invited
wife in
Sammy
here.
as well. Yeah. Uh,
That's awesome. What time is it over there in the States?
it's it is probably 7:30 for Sammy over in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey wifey, nice to see you. I might call on you to share a couple things. You'll have to turn your video on if you don't want to. You might be cuddly in bed, but your audio might be supportive at a certain point in here for anything. But yeah, guys. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about basically what it looks like to find the woman you love and build a family and get married and do all of those fun things. So the reason I chose this topic is because over here in the Bali Time Chamber, for those of you guys who don't know what the Bali Time Chamber is, it's something founded by Nico, aka the motion guy, out of the Uncom community, where he was inspired by Dragon Ball Z. For those of you guys who have seen that, and there is a concept inside of there. How many of you guys have watched like Dragon Ball Z and know what the hyperbolic time chamber is too? I want to know like who I'm talking to. You guys know, just like raise your hand on video or drop a comment. Okay,
I've heard
cool,
about
cool.
it.
Yeah, I heard a couple things about it. Yeah, John's heard of it. So, for those of you guys on the recording who haven't or in here who don't know, it's a concept out of Dragon Ball Z, one of the world's greatest animes, to where world's defenders, when an alien force would come onto Earth to try to destroy Earth, and you weren't strong enough to go in and battle them right away, you would go into the hyperbolic time chamber. One day in there was equal to 1 year in the outside world, and so you could get in 2 days the same training that you would get done in 2 years. And so that's the concept over here at the Bali Time Chamber. And there's about 20 other guys here right now. It's an all men's immersion to get as much work done as you possibly can. It's been awesome for the book writing work that I've been doing out here and doing a couple more things. But inside of that, out of 20 guys here, there are only two men who are married, and there are no men who have children in this event. And so it was very, very eye opening for the fact that um, 200 years ago, if you would have grabbed a room where the average age was probably 28 years old with the group of men, I would say it's probably about the average age here is like 28. Most of the guys are about, I think the youngest is 23, the oldest is like 36 or 37. And there's not a single person with a child, or there's only two guys out of the 20 who are married. And this is something that is drastically different compared to where the world was just 300 years ago. And it's not to say like being not being married is wrong or being single is terrible by any means. I think it's got so much power in it, but it just kind of shows that especially in conversation, as being one of the married men, lots of the guys here are like asking me questions like, how do you find the woman that you love? How do you choose the woman that you love is the woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with? How do you know marriage is even the right decision? Like, is marriage something that is just like a man-made concept and you really don't even need a ring? And you could build a family off grid and never involve the government inside of your business. Like they're all very valid questions, right? And so I wanted to just take some time today to open the floor on that and have a conversation on it. So just like with a raise of hands or like a comment down below, how many of you guys are single right now? Like just a quick raise of the hands. Okay, we got a couple. How many of you guys are married, engaged, or in a committed relationship? Okay, cool. Max, you're married to the game.
I am in a relationship these days, actually, from a girl in Clearwater.
Oh, is that the girl that you went on the date with?
Well, yes, sir.
Oh, I love it, man. That's such a cool story too. Just all that happened, man. I'm so happy for you, brother. Sammy's throwing her emojis up in the chat right now. We are
Forgot to
proud
tell you,
parents.
Ma. Yeah. So, sorry.
So, with the topic of today, we got a kind of a mixed bag in the room. Some guys in relationships, some guys not. I want to spend a little bit of time on talking about like how to actually find the woman who's the right woman for you, and then a little bit more time on like how do you build a legacy with her. For you, a legacy might be a relationship that lasts forever. I would encourage the men here into marriage in that process. And for some of you guys, children is what you feel called to. Some of you guys, that's kind of scary right now. So we'll just spend some time demystifying that concept as well too, and going in on that. So the first piece on finding your wife. My wife, Sammy, I met her 4 years ago. We've been married for 3 years happily. And, we've got intentions to build a beautiful, large family and, just live the best life possible. I look at that woman every single day and know that I am never leaving her and she's never leaving me. And it's something that is very, very rare. I was talking to a man yesterday who is thinking about buying a ring for his girlfriend, and he talks about how he catches glimpses of a future with her, with children, and it makes him so happy. But sometimes he'll have to like snap out of it because like they're not married, the kids aren't there, and also he's like, how do I know she's the right one, even though he's been with her for 2 years? I said, that's amazing. But you know what happens when you buy that woman a ring? It's no longer a glimpse, it's the vision you see every single day. And you no longer have uncertainty on it. You choose that that's the woman I'm going to do life with, right? And you choose that this is where I'm going to be building, and that uncertainty starts to disappear. And so one of the biggest gifts that marriage, has is that gift of certainty, to where like when I look at my wife, I know that we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. And it's a piece, man, that nothing else can give. And how I found her was not by doing anything crazy or going out of my own way. And this is where I want to encourage like a lot of you guys, because I see some guys like trying to find their wife like through online dating apps, which I don't think are a bad thing by any means. I was on them beforehand. Like I found my wife on the internet. I'll share here in a second, but it was through a different path. Or just going these alternative means to find a woman. And really what I think is like the best advice that I could give a young man or even an older man or whatever age man who's working out there to try to find the woman of his dreams is simply go after your goals, man. I really do think that the world works so simply that when you are in flow going after your purpose as a man, that's when you're going to find the woman who's supposed to be there for you, right? A woman for a man, a good wife, is a reward for a man on its purpose, right? It's not something that you have to take a detour on to go and find, and then take the 30 minutes back to your main path to get back onto your goals, right? It's something to where when you find a woman, she's going to be right there in front of you while you're, going on your path that God has for you here on this earth or the universe, whatever, phrasing that you want to use for that makes you comfortable, your intuition. I've got my own personal beliefs on that, but the purpose here is not to push that on anybody here. As you are walking through whatever experience that the world has for you, like I know Garrett, you freaking love like farming and planting and like beautiful stuff in this. Dylan, you've got such a passion, man, for just like showing up for people, healing bodies. You know what I mean? Like you hold such a great emotional space for people as well too, to be able to unpack. Max, you're like such a beautiful coordinator of events, you see a vision for where men and women need to gather, and you say this thing needs to be here on this world, and you get the things going to create that. And I've gotten the chance to work with you on that, and Dylan with the Knees Over Toes event in Texas. But everybody here, and I just know those guys a little bit more so I'm throwing those out, has a gift and a purpose. And I truly do believe that as you continue to go after those, you're going to find the woman that you love and who's going to spend the rest of your life. I think when a situation comes up, and for instance, on my end, when I've been I think previous relationships are not a bad thing, right? We all learn relationships from, or we all learn lessons from those relationships. But like when I entered into relationships that were not Sammy or were not my wife, usually it was from me kind of taking a detour from purpose, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna step to the left or to the right, maybe not far, but like I'm gonna just look around a little bit more so. And when I found my wife, dude, my head was in the blinders. I was single for 4 years before I met her. And I'm not saying that, you can't go out there and try to find a woman before you find your wife, but this is just the path that worked for me. And so I'm only going to share what's worked for me. If you guys resonate with that, follow some similar things in it. If you don't resonate with it, junk it out. And I hope you find, your path in it. But I was single for 4 years before I met my wife. And it was very odd as she was single for 4 years beforehand as well, too. We had both gone through a similar path. And I really do believe that, when you walk this journey of finding your right wife, she's getting crafted and molded and evolved and growing into the right person for you at the same time as well, too. So you have a duty to work on yourself while she's growing in her path as well, too. But single for 4 years and damn near celibate for probably like a year and a half. And that was not something that was like, a core piece of my identity before I met my wife. And celibacy is not the intention of today's conversation, but I do want to bring it up as a powerful, powerful tool, because before being celibate for about a year and a half before I met my wife, I was a lot more distracted with any woman that would come my way. Even if we didn't have sexual relations, it was the fact that it was an open door that was still a part of the dialogue. That open door would distract me with the wind, shooting it open and closed at different moments in time. But I just kind of stopped thinking about like going after women for sex. It made things a lot easier to just focus on growing my own journey. So that's another conversation for another day. Um, fasting lies in that same conversation along with celibacy, right? It's building that boundary and learning where your boundaries lie within it. But truly, it's just to be able to focus, and focus on your own path. So I believe, like, just to encourage any of you guys here who are single right now, stay on your purpose, stay on your, man, the thing that you do where time just flies. It sounded like the speaker beforehand, Darren Bruce, was kind of talking a little bit on this, but like whenever you start daydreaming and you look off into the distance at a beautiful view, the things that you think about, go after that, right? And you'll find your wife in that journey. Like, Max, you love cracking jokes, dude. And you found this girl because you started cracking jokes. You know what I mean? Like, you were just following like the stuff that's enjoyable for you. You were connecting with people at an event. What are you doing now? You're hosting an event. You found your wife because you were in another state, or you found your woman, not your wife. You found your woman because of the fact that you were just going and doing the things that you loved. So just want to encourage you guys, if you're like kind of, spending your time scrolling through Tinder or whatever dating app is around, I do think that those can be righteous and you can find an awesome person in there. But I also think for the most part, they're a pretty big distraction and might be wasting more time than they are adding to your life as well, too. So in that way, man, just like go after that purpose that's on your heart. Keep spending time there. Like I said, I was single for 4 years before I met my wife. And also before I met my wife, I was never in a relationship longer than 6 months. So do not use your previous experience to ever validate you for the future woman coming your way. You are a growing and evolving man every single day. And whenever a new purpose or new challenge like marriage or relationship comes your way, you're fully equipped for it the second that it enters your atmosphere. It's not something that you ever have to build strength for. It's something that you show up and you've got that authority already inside of you. So if you're like me in the previous relationships, maybe weren't the best or they didn't last as long. I married my wife within 11 months of dating her. And the previous longest relationship I'd ever had was 6 months. So I'll be honest, it was scary, super scary. But it just felt right from the very beginning, and I just chased those butterflies. So I want to encourage you guys in that. And one thing I want to talk about here too, and I'll say this, and my wife is here, and we've talked about this a couple times. So I know she won't be offended by this, even though it might initially sound offensive to anybody there who's listening. And if it does, I just want to give a little bit more context to this as well. But one of the guys who I was sitting in the sauna here at the Bali Time Chamber, he was like, "How do you choose that this woman is who you're going to spend the rest of your life with?" So we move on from like, I found my woman, I'm in my purpose. She looks pretty great. She sounds pretty great. She's also my best friend when I hang out with her. I think that's a very big part. I do respect a lot of Eastern cultures who do like pre-arranged marriage, and like they actually don't really have that best friend relationship in their marriage. Huge respect for that. And I've actually seen those work out really well. But at least in the Western world and in the United States, I do believe that having more of a best friend dynamic within your marriage is the way to go. But I do want to be respectful for other countries where it's not similar in that way. But I do think a huge caveat is like, my wife is my best friend. We crack jokes, we send memes to each other all the time. We're laughing at the same things. I used to think women weren't funny before I met my wife. And that's just a true fact. I would just laugh at their jokes because I thought they were attractive. And I just thought women were like, just didn't have the gift of humor. And so, but she definitely changed that. So make them your best friend. But, we're moving on from like, you found your woman, you think she's pretty great. You maybe don't know if she's the woman of your dreams yet or the woman you're going to marry, into how do you choose that you're going to spend the rest of your life with this woman? And so the piece of advice I was talking to this guy in the sauna on was, all right, if I look at my wife and I just look at two things. I look at her personality and I look at her aesthetics. How does she look? Okay. My woman is a beautiful Trinidadian woman of African descent and has amazing smile, beautiful personality, amazing eyes. And I think she is just one of the most beautiful women in the entire world, both inside and out with personality. But I will be 10,000% truthful with you guys. I bet there's probably 30 other women in this world who look almost exactly like my wife and have the same personality. Maybe they're in France, maybe they're in Trinidad, maybe they're somewhere else in the world. But there's probably 30 other women, at least on this 8 billion population Earth that we live on, who look 95% like my wife and have 95% of the same personality as her. That's just because of the odds, right? It's not to say like my wife like blends in with the crowd, because she doesn't, but there's probably like people will send me pictures and say, "Hey Patrick, I found a doppelganger of you." You know what I mean? And like there's people who look like me. And so odds are there's probably thousands of guys who look like me, and a couple of them probably have pretty similar personalities to me as well too. So already there's like, 20, 30 women I would say in the world who probably look pretty identical to my wife or have a similar personality. And then if I expand it beyond just aesthetics, I bet you there's like 10 to 20, 30,000 women who have a very similar personality to my wife. But now we start to go beyond just race and skin color and how you look as well too. So we start to bring in like blonde women, brunettes, Latina, Asian, and all of that. And like there's probably 20, 30,000 women who are within like a 95% similarity to Sammy. So how do you choose? Right? How do you say like this is the one that I'm actually going to be with? And the answer is very simple, guys. And I hope this just brings a lot of like peace to you. You just freaking choose. It's as simple as that. You stop worrying about like, is she the one, and you make her the one. Right? Because no woman is ever going to enter your life as the perfect woman. You choose to see beyond all of their flaws or even into all of their beauty, right? And you say, this is the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. You don't ever meet the perfect woman. You make the perfect woman when you put a ring on her finger. You meet the perfect woman when you say you talk to her parents about marriage. You meet the perfect woman when you start going into further steps and talking about having children, building a family, and making a legacy. You can choose whatever woman you want when you start to enter into a relationship. Don't, try to Like I told my wife 2 weeks into meeting her, I was going to marry her and we didn't start dating for 3 more months. That's a little risky, right? You don't want to necessarily throw that at like random women that you're going to marry them. But if you know, you know, but at the end of the day, you choose and you got to honor your decision, man. Like know that you make good decisions. And even when it gets hard, yeah, with the Riz, baby. Even when it gets hard, even when it's like um, things get complicated, money comes up, religion comes up, where you're gonna live comes up, how you want to raise children comes up. All these different complicated topics start to enter the picture. Just stay calm and remember, I chose this woman, right? And if I chose her, and I truly believe that the power of my decision stands, you'll work through everything. But yeah, Sammy's right. Like it's feeling compatibility. Sammy, do you want to add a little bit on that? Like what's it like for a woman to be chosen and what's her role and feelings and just experience throughout that? If you don't want to go on video, you don't have to. Okay, cool. I didn't know if you were like sleeping in bed or cozy.
But now I'm not. Um, no, I what it feels like to be chosen. I think it still feels like in the time I met you, I still felt like I was choosing too.
Mhm.
There was a duality of knowing that you were choosing me, but I also knew I was choosing you. And it's kind of like going into a job interview where it's the difference between feeling like you're hoping the interviewer is going to choose you versus recognize going into an interview and recognizing, yes, I want to show you who I am so you can decide if I'm the employee for you, but also I'm interviewing you to decide if this is the correct job for me. And so it feels like an agreement that says, hey, I really like you. I like how I feel when I'm around you. I love the excitement that we have. I love who I think you are in terms of, you know, you're ambitious and you're fun and you're playful and you're willing to, you know, grow your world. And I love doing that all for myself. So the choice feels like I'm choosing something that I know we're both just deciding to see how it's going to go. And every day, I mean, every day feels like a choice. Like we technically never know where everything's going to go, but we're walking for it every day, choosing to make it the best that it can be. And it keeps working every day.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you, baby. I appreciate that. And so I just noticed we got a couple more minutes and I want to be respectful of Court coming on in and sharing his wisdom and knowledge with you guys. So I'll just kind of wrap this up from here. You find your woman by going on your path. You start the marriage, the relationship, the family just by choosing the woman. And from there, to actually build a legacy, build a family, and go further into it. I think it's kind of like what Sammy was saying. You just trust, right? Just trust that it's all going to work out, even through the hard parts. And look at the person across the table from you or holding hands with you as your best friend and the person that you're like your business partner for life, you know, and just trust that they're gonna be there and not screw you up, not do anything wrong. And guess what? Real life happens. Sometimes you do get screwed up. And so you just have to trust again. You just gotta trust again, right? You just gotta keep going in, whether it's a new relationship or you guys work through those same issues, because the ability to trust, manage your ability to be able to really level up in this world. Because you go beyond just what can I do, and you say I'm gonna believe in the other people around me that they can do good as well too, and that's where multiplication starts to come in a lot. So I'll wrap that up there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come on in with those,
What's
and we'll go
what's your
from there.
favorite thing about Sammy if you had to highlight one quality?
Dude, genuinely, the fact she's my best friend. Like when I say I literally thought women had no jokes, they were all just like I don't know, like they weren't funny, bro. Like being with the boys was funny. Like, but then being with my wife, she cracks jokes and she's funny. So I think the fact Max said she's not funny. It's the fact that like she'll actually make me laugh and like we have a good time. Like I would I'll know I'll have a good time with my wife the same way like I'm with 16 other guys and we're cracking jokes here at the Bali Time Chamber, bro. Like we're cracking jokes, we're broing down. It's a good time. But I have the same amount of fun with my wife, if not more in different ways. I have more fun here in different ways with these guys as well too. So it's like it never feels like I'm stepping down from joy when I go and into my wife's presence. It feels like it's just elevated in new ways, right? Like she's never going to replace the boys, and the boys are never going to replace her, but she gives me what they can't give me, and it just escalates that joy in so many ways. So I really am a believer, man, like in the fact that I think your wife should be your best friend. If she's not, it's kind of a red flag to me. Like if she is not your best friend in the same way, like Max, I love hanging out with you. We could shoot the shit for 3 weeks straight, like we did when you know you lived at our house. Like I would consider you in my top tier best friends. Like, and Sammy's the same way. I can go sit with her, and like it's a good time. If it's not like if you don't see your wife in the same light as you do see your best friends, and it's not that maybe you just haven't thought of it that way, so that's why you've never seen her in that way or your woman in that way. So I also just want to open the door for guys to look at their girl as their best friend as well too. Because if you never even thought that a woman should be your best friend, this concept could be new. Maybe you just thought like she was just for, you know, good looks, sexual relationships, and building a family, you know. And so this is a different, more mature thought, I think, when you start to look at like I actually want to have fun with them. So that's a huge piece for me, man. Is she's funny and we have a good time.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any quick questions before we go on to court?
I have questions, but I don't think they'd be quick, so I'd love to link up
Court,
with you.
Court, are you okay if we go a little longer on the Q&A, or is that all right?
Go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Garrett.
So, like, could you share your perspective on what Paul speaks about in the Bible in terms of marrying and like the purposes of it? Because I've found that like in my life, in the past, I was certainly lustful a lot, and now, thank God, like that's really not a thing anymore. I'm still learning about it, so I can maintain that control over that flesh. But when he talks about like, I wish that you would all not marry, but so that you can have an outlet for that, if I'm phrasing it correctly. And just could you share some knowledge or wisdom that you have regarding that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a Christian. Love me some Jesus. And so I'll speak from that perspective here on that, Garrett. So whenever looking at any scripture as well too, what we have to look at is first and foremost, who is the author? Like you talked about Paul. Second, who is he writing to? And what was the context around the age as well too? While I do believe the Bible is the most beautiful and inspired text that's ever been created, we still have to acknowledge that there's different connotations because of the fact that it was written by someone to somebody as a certain level. There you go, Court. So like you have to understand context. And for Paul, his context was he was like an eternally single man, right? He was always single. So when he speaks on that, like he's also speaking through the authority God's given him around being single. So it's like for me, I'm going to more passionately speak about overcoming knee surgeries than I am about lower back or shoulder injuries because I've had 2 knee surgeries. And it doesn't devalue the healing that comes from lower backs or shoulders. But like when I see somebody get over a knee injury, I'm like, let's freaking go, buddy. Like, because I know what it's like to have to relearn how to walk 2 different times. So that would be the first piece I would say on it is like just knowing the context. Like Paul like loves singledom in that way because he's seen so many blessings come from his own life of putting the blinders on and saying I'm not going to be distracted by anybody else. So that's where I would say for that. And then we go back to Genesis, man. It's like man and woman were made to be together to have dominion over this earth. We were made to co-rule the earth and have dominion over every single thing that moves, breathes on this earth. And so Genesis 1:26 through 28 is a great place to see what was the original intention of man and marriage because we're working in unity with that original message for mankind. So going back to what Paul says, man, on marriage, I would say there's a couple pieces on that because he talks a lot about, you know, marriage in each of those books. But the first thing I would say is like if like you talked about lust is something that comes up, a simple exercise that I did before I met my wife that really helped me to hone in and like to stop just getting distracted with girls that were not having any permanent place in my life. And what I mean by that is pretty girls, attractive girls who you are never going to have any sort of long-term standing relationship with. This is like random girls in the in the Starbucks line. This is girls at the gym. This is like coworkers who you won't talk to after ever leaving. But for some reason, if we decide to invest our time and attention into that, it'll distract us from everything else. Simplest thing, man, was like, I didn't really think about at that time, let me overcome lust. I just thought about, let me improve my focus. And so I switched the focus from being sin conscious to righteousness consciousness. And so I didn't beat myself up for lust. I instead focused, how do I build my focus? Right. And that's where I'm going to go, because I think when we keep our mind on, oh shit, I just looked at that girl's butt, I'm a dirty sinner. Oh man, I just looked at her boobs while we talked. My eyes glanced down. It was muscle memory. Like, I'm a piece of shit. Like, I don't think that that's like a healthy mentality long term to make differences. You can do it in the short term, but long term, you want to think like, let me rise up rather than berate myself for stepping down. And so for me, I focused on focus. So a simple exercise I did with women was like, dude, almost like holding a plank or a handstand. I'm like, let me make eye contact with her for as long as possible. Like, I am not going to look down at her breasts. I am not going to look down at her breast. Because I don't know about you guys, I met my wife when I was like 22. And so before that, it was like muscle memory, dude. You'd be making eye contact with a girl and your eyes would just glance down, right? Your eyes would just glance down, even if it's like once a minute, right? It's like I couldn't help, right? But you can actually help. So what I would phrase there, like for anything like that, man, is literally practice your focus. And if you're with a woman, like just make deep, intimate eye contact. It'll change their life too, because they probably haven't encountered a man who has that ability, and it makes you 10 times more attractive as well too. So I would say that piece. And then for marriage, man, Paul talks about so many good things on marriage, dude. It's like, you know,
Can I add one thing on that topic you were just talking about?
Yeah, go ahead, Max.
There's a fun game you can play if you're looking to spice up your love life. Basically, with anybody you're talking to. I typically do it I was doing it with baristas, but now I actually did it on my first date. You say, do you want to play the eye contact game? And they say, oh, sure, of course. And then you say, all right, there's a question asker and a question answerer. So you get to choose which one do you want to be. Typically, they're going to be they want you to ask the question. So you ask them a question, and the game is they have to look into your eyes for 15 seconds without saying anything, and then answer the question. So it forces an intimate connection immediately with a stranger, because you ask a question and then you have to. The struggle is that when you want to think of an answer, your tendency is to look away. So it's really hard to actually hold the eye contact and think of an answer. And women will just fall in love with you if you have nice eyes too. So it's a bonus there.
Yeah, that's a great one, bro. So that's a really good one. So and if you want to Garrett, we can go in depth a little bit more on that, like in a one-on-one conversation as well too. But that would be like my initial feedback on that. There's more to it because like I said, Paul talks a lot about marriage. So there's just more stuff there. If anybody else has some questions, feel free. Otherwise, I don't want to hold too much court's time up here.
I've got a question, Patrick.
Yeah.
How did you find peace with the loneliness and also the lack of intimate touch?
Oh, dude, it sucks. Yeah, it sucks, bro. Like, it sucks. And this is where I think for men, the key missing piece is community, man, and especially masculine community. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes, bro, like it sounds weird, but you're like, man, I'm missing physical touch of a woman. You know, you might just need to go lift some weights with your bros and have a dude fist bump you. And it's like, okay, like I'm actually getting, is like, as odd as it sounds, you know, like you're getting the same kind of like hormonal boost just by being in the same room, sweating with other people, having your electromagnetic, you know, pieces of your heart and your body touching other people within an 8-foot radius of you, right? Like just like letting the electrical pathways of the body actually connect with people around you in vicinity, not just through Zoom. This is great, we're like connecting through the headphones into the phone and through the wireless connections of the internet, and we are connecting right now. But there's something so much more powerful about an in-person connection, because you truly get to, your body vibrates, as a part of the experience. So I would say for that, man, like I struggled a lot with that, dude. Like, and that was kind of just a part of it. But if I could look back now, man, the number one thing that helped me out in that time was like setting up weekly, reoccurring physical sessions with people. Whether that was like I go and work out with somebody, or even like for me, right before I met my wife is when I became a Christian. I wasn't a Christian before that. So I just started going to church like once a month. You know what I mean? Like even before I was a Christian, just because like I walked out feeling a little bit like vibrational and nice, and something in my heart felt happy, even though like I didn't fully align with this guy named Jesus and my perspective on him at the time. Now he's my best friend, but like it was just like I'm just gonna go to like connect. You know what I mean? Like go like a group workout class, meet up with people, like go hang out with family, nieces, nephews, you know what I mean? Like I would volunteer with the kids to work with kids at times. And I think a lot of it, man, is like we just need to be in the room with people who are happy, smiling, and in a good place. And that helps out so much more. And so I think we place too high of a value as a culture on a relationship fulfilling all of our community needs, when it's like men need men, men need their parents, men need their brothers, their sisters, men need their nieces, their nephews, all of that to spend time with. So I really think like placing a high priority on like my friendships was something that I wish I would have done a lot more so in that time, rather than let myself sit in a room sad. It would have been like, let me just go like hang out with some friends. And like, even if we're doing nothing, we're just in the same room together, and maybe I just start talking, and that talking makes me feel better. You know what I mean?
I get you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Powerful stuff, Patrick. Yeah, let's wrap
Appreciate
it
you,
up.
brother.
It's been amazing. I really appreciate you sharing. This is a much needed topic, and I think it would be really powerful to actually get a whole summit together organized around this, like relationships and stuff. Probably could. Yeah, we're thinking about doing an AI one next month, but maybe the next month will be relationships.
Love it, man.
Can you share where people can connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at the Patrick Bell, YouTube at the Patrick Bell, TikTok at the Patrick Bell, Facebook is different, and it's facebook.com/James Patrick Bell, because my first name is James. So you can connect with me on any of those platforms. Instagram's where I'm most prevalent. Same with Facebook. And then the other two, they still see me, but they don't see me as much. So connect with me on there. And if you guys are on Telegram in the Uncomm or ATG stuff, you can find me in there as well too.
Amazing.